Okay, picture this. You've poured hundreds of dollars and literally endless weekends into the absolute best fertilizers, the highest quality seeds, and meticulous watering schedules, only to watch your plants mysteriously turn yellow, stunt, and eventually fail. It's incredibly frustrating, right? But what if I told you the culprit isn't your gardening skill at all, but an invisible lock hidden right beneath the surface? Welcome to the Explainer. Okay, let's dive into this. The answer to that frustrating, invisible lock often comes down to one single fundamental metric: your soil acidity, or pH. You see, you can pump your soil full of the most premium nutrients on the market, but if the soil chemistry is off, those nutrients are completely inaccessible to your plants. They just sit there. So today, we're going to unlock the secrets of soil testing, from the basic science to at-home corrections, so you can transform your garden from struggling to absolutely thriving. Here's our roadmap for today. We'll start with why soil pH matters. Then, get our hands dirty with some DIY kitchen science testing. After that, we'll look at commercial kits and meters, how to actually interpret your results, how to adjust that pH, and we'll wrap it up with a quick recap and some expert guidance. Let's start with Section 1, why soil pH matters. Let's look at the hidden mechanics happening underground. Basically, soil pH is just a measurement of how acidic or alkaline your soil is, which is based on its hydrogen ion concentration. It's measured on a scale from 0 to 14, where exactly 7.0 is completely neutral. Anything below 7 is acidic, and anything above 7 is alkaline. But here is the really critical part to understand. This is a logarithmic scale. That means each whole number change represents a tenfold difference. So soil with a pH of 5.0 isn't just slightly more acidic than 6.0, it is 10 times more acidic. It's a huge jump. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the lock and key analogy. Think of your soil as a room packed with a buffet of nutrient food, and your plant roots are the guests trying to eat, while the soil pH is the key to the door of that room. If the pH is wrong, the door is just locked tight. It literally doesn't matter how much expensive fertilizer you add, the plant simply cannot absorb it. As one of our sources perfectly put it, applying fertilizer without managing your soil pH is about as effective as a deer rifle without bullets. When that pH drifts far into the extremes, your garden effectively becomes a patient in need of a diagnostic test. In highly acidic soils, essential nutrients like potassium and calcium get entirely locked out. Meanwhile, elements like aluminum and iron become so soluble they can actually become toxic to the plant. On the flip side, in highly alkaline soils, critical micronutrients like iron and manganese are locked out. That's exactly what leads to those sad, yellowing leaves and stunted growth. Moving on to Section 2, let's look at some kitchen science and DIY testing you can do right now. For complete beginners, the classic fizz test is a fantastic starting point. First, grab a half cup of soil from a depth of about 4 to 6 inches. Pour some regular household white vinegar over it. If it bubbles and fizzes, well, your soil is alkaline. For part 2, take a totally fresh sample of soil, mix it with water to create a sort of muddy paste, and sprinkle in a tablespoon of baking soda. If you get a fizzy reaction this time, your soil is acidic. And hey, if neither test causes a stir, congratulations, you likely have a neutral pH. So the crucial point is this. Always use distilled water when mixing your soil for these home tests. A really common beginner mistake is using tap water or rainwater. The thing is, rainwater is naturally slightly acidic, usually around 5.6 or 5.7. And municipal tap water, that's often artificially raised to an alkaline pH of 8.0 or more just to protect city pipes. Using tap water will instantly skew your home test results, so stick to distilled. Now, if you want a slightly more precise and honestly pretty cool visual DIY test, try the red cabbage method. Just boil some chapped red cabbage leaves in distilled water for 10 minutes. Filter out the cabbage chunks and you're left with this dark violet indicator juice. Mix a tablespoon of your soil into a small cup with this juice and wait at least 20 minutes. That soaking time allows the juice to really interact with the soil elements. If the liquid turns fuchsia or pink, it's acidic. If it turns blue or a bright green, it's alkaline. It's an incredibly visual and impressive way to test a wider range of indicators right on your kitchen counter. All right, Section 3, commercial kits and meters. Let's talk about stepping up your diagnostic accuracy. When you go shopping for testing tools, you'll generally encounter two main types: chemical kits and digital meters. Chemical kits use these color-coded dyes that you mix with soil water and then you match the resulting color to a chart. They're super easy to use, but they only provide approximate categorical values. Digital meters, on the other hand, use a probe to provide high precision, often right down to a 0.1 decimal point. And honestly, that precision is essential for serious monitoring. Because remember, even a 0.1 unit variation makes a huge difference. The catch? You do have to calibrate them regularly. And this brilliantly illustrates just how reliable retail kits can be. According to a comprehensive academic study from the journal Hort Technology, high-quality home chemical kits truly do work if you choose the right brand. They tested off-the-shelf kits against standard university lab analyses. The Lamont soil test kit achieved a really impressive 94% accuracy rate, followed closely by Rapid at 92%. However, lesser kits, like the quick soil test, only hit 64%. The takeaway here? You don't always need a fancy lab, but you absolutely need a quality, proven testing kit. Now, if you do step up to a digital meter, you must use a professional technique known as a soil slurry. Please don't just jam the probe into dry dirt. That won't work. Gather a representative soil sample, mix 1 part soil to 2 parts distilled water in a clean container, and stir it up thoroughly. Then, and this is key, let that slurry sit undisturbed for 15 to 30 minutes to allow the soil particles to fully settle and equilibrate. Only then should you gently insert your calibrated meter to get an accurate reading. Even with the best meters, you might run into a few snags. If your readings are jumping all over the place, your soil sample might just be too dry, which is exactly why that slurry method is so important. Also, if your meter gets inexplicably stuck reading exactly 7.0 every time, your electrode is likely dried out or contaminated. Make sure to always clean your probe with distilled water between tests and calibrate it regularly using standardized pH 4.0 and 7.0 buffer solutions to keep it honest. Section 4. Interpreting your pH results. So, what does this data actually mean for your plants? The short answer is different plants thrive in completely different chemical environments. Most vegetable crops, and your standard turf grasses, they prefer a slightly acidic to neutral range, usually between 6.0 and 6.8. In that sweet spot, the maximum amount of nutrients is available and microbial activity in the dirt is just booming. But there are some major exceptions. Acid-loving plants like blueberries, azaleas, or rhododendrons will actually suffer in neutral soil. They absolutely demand a highly acidic environment between 4.5 and 5.5 just to absorb the iron they need to survive. When interpreting your results, you also have to factor in your specific soil type. This dictates what's called its buffering capacity, which is just a fancy way of saying how strongly the soil resists a change in pH. Soils with a lot of clay or tons of organic matter have a high buffering capacity. So if your test shows your heavy clay soil is too acidic, it's going to take a significantly larger amount of treatment to raise the pH, compared to someone trying to fix sandy soil that has the exact same initial pH reading. Section 5. How to adjust your soil pH. Let's write the prescription to fix it. Adjusting soil pH is all about adding the correct amendments to nudge things in the right direction. If your soil is too acidic and you need to raise the pH, the standard treatment is agricultural lime, which is primarily made of finely ground calcium carbonate. The lime reacts with the hydrogen ions in the soil solution and neutralizes that acidity. Conversely, if your soil is too alkaline and you need to lower the pH, you should apply organic sulfur or incorporate highly acidic materials like peat moss or pine needles. These will slowly and safely acidify the environment. Let's move to and see how this builds into your long-term gardening strategy, because you can't just fix your pH once and forget about it. Soil naturally drifts over time, most commonly becoming more acidic. Why does that happen? Well, high rainfall constantly leaches alkaline elements, like calcium, deep down into the soil profile away from roots. The natural decomposition of organic matter releases carbon dioxide and weak acids. And even the routine application of ammonia-based nitrogen fertilizers actively releases hydrogen ions, which further acidifies the soil. It's a dynamic, living system, and it requires routine checkup. And finally, Section 6, Recap and Expert Guidance. Let's bring it all together. Let's rapidly recap the core takeaways here. Soil pH is the master key that either locks or unlocks nutrients for your plants. If you're doing DIY testing at home, always use distilled water so you don't corrupt the results. If you purchase a high-quality commercial test kit like Lamont or Rapid, you can confidently expect over 90% accuracy compared to a lab. And finally, always interpret your results and amend your soil based on the specific, unique needs of the plants you're actually trying to grow, while factoring in your soil's buffering capacity. Remember, while taking your soil health into your own hands is deeply empowering, if you're planning major agricultural adjustments, the absolute gold standard is to consult with a local agricultural extension office or a professional soil scientist. They can provide region-specific guidance tailored exactly to your local soil profiles. So I'll leave you with this provocative thought. If your garden is a patient, what will its next blood work reveal? Are you ready to find out? Keep learning, keep testing, and we'll see you on the next explainer.